Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful day. I'm out in the garden, and it's time to talk about Criterion Collection. Now, if you are new here, and you could subscribe and give a comment and give a thumbs up and all that fun stuff, that would be super helpful. I do thank you so much for that. Welcome back. If you're not new here, hey, how's it going? Thank you for coming back. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for commenting in advance if you're going to comment. So, Criterion Collection, which is like the granddaddy of all the boutique Blu-ray labels, right? And DVD and Laserdisc and VHS and all that stuff because they've been around for so long, has announced a new Hong Kong title. And they announced it on, they announced it yesterday, so that was June 15th, 2021. And the title is Throwdown, the Johnnie To film that was released in 2004 and stars Louis Koo. And I actually have it right here. This is their Eureka release. And, God, Tony Lung Ka-Fai is in it, but who's the other? Oh, Aaron Kwok, duh. And this is a really great film. It's kind of a drama. It's a really interesting movie. It's definitely not one of Johnnie To's, like, it's from the same era as those films. Like, you know, if you look at like A Hero Never Dies and The Mission is like the starting point of that era in Johnnie To, and it's through like drug war, maybe that 15-year period, you know, exiled election, triad election, and then you get the films like Breaking News and like all that stuff, right? The PTU, which is coming out pretty soon from Eureka, like in 5 days. These action thriller, like kind of like cops and robbers types films, right? This is not that at all, even though it was in the middle of that period. It's very much a drama about people who do judo, and it's heavily inspired by Kurosawa, and it's a film that kind of looks at Hong Kong in the aftermath of SARS and like an economic crisis. It's a really, really great movie. And it's very kind of different from a lot of Johnnie To stuff. So Criterion will be putting that out in 2021. What's really interesting about this to me is that, I mean, first of all, you get the inevitable. That's great, but Eureka just released that. And Eureka did just release that. Like, they released it last year, and it's a new scan, and it's a 4K restoration and all that stuff. And so why are we getting it again? Why don't they put out Election? Why don't they put out Exile? Why don't they put out The Mission? I get that argument completely and totally. I do think, though, that you have to look from the Criterion perspective, because I agree with that. I would much rather have The Mission or my two favorite Johnnie To films are probably Election and Election 2, and then maybe Exile is my third favorite. Like, I would love to have any of those on a Criterion Blu-ray. But, you know, I mean, one, this has just been restored, so they don't have to do the restoration work. They just get the rights to it, and they can get that restoration, right? That's part of it. Probably saves them a fair amount of money because they're taking a risk on Johnnie To not being probably particularly well known to the majority of their fan base, right? So that's the other thing you have to understand. Criterion's mindset is we are presenting like important, predominantly art house films to a very, very large built-in audience who doesn't really care if it's a Hong Kong movie. They care if it's a movie they're interested in watching, right? I mean, Criterion has put out 4 or 5 Tarkovsky movies. They put out the Fellini box set. Like, Wong Kar-wai is a huge staple of the Criterion collection. They put out a huge Bergman set, a huge Agnes Varda set. They put out so many Godard films, so many Truffaut films, right? So you have to look from the perspective of, like, that's who's buying these movies. And to me, it's actually very smart for them to put out Throwdown, because if you're a Godard fan, if you're a whatever Fellini fan, who actually happen to be 2 of my all-time favorite filmmakers. Like, if I made a list of my top 10, they would definitely be on there. They might also both be on my top 5. Throwdown is a good sell to them because it's an odd film, and it's an atypical film, and it's a film that has a very unique tone and a very unique approach to its subject matter. And so it's a film that people who are huge cinephiles can be interested in, even if they don't care about Hong Kong cinema. Whereas if you're presenting a film like Election, and I would argue that Election has one of the best scripts of like the last 15, 20 years, especially when it comes to thrillers. The script for that movie is perfect beyond perfect. Like, it's just absurd. I've actually considered doing an audio commentary track to just walk through every scene and talk about the script. Obviously, I've never read the physical document that they created because it's in, I would imagine it's in Cantonese, and I wouldn't even know how the hell to get it. But I'm talking about the way the information is presented in the film. If you consider that the script of the film, the text of the film, it defies belief, honestly, as you watch that movie over and over again, how much they accomplish in so little time with those themes. It's almost like Shakespeare. And I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but there are sections of that film that really remind me of a Shakespeare play. And I can say that until I'm blue in the face. But at the end of the day, if you're a Criterion fan and you're reading a description of the film and it's like a cops and robbers Hong Kong thriller, and then at the same time you're like, here's this, you know, Tarkovsky masterpiece, like they're putting out Mirror, I think, in July. that hasn't been available ever on Blu-ray in the US. Like, of course, the majority of the Criterion fan base is probably going to be like, oh, Tarkovsky, and or whoever, like, oh, the Fellini set is coming out, or like they just announced a Mario Van Peebles set, so that'll probably sell really well. I'm actually really excited about that. So my name is Will, and this is just kind of my 2 cents on the Throwdown release from Criterion. It does have really great artwork, which I think is pretty sweet. And actually, also, I wrote down what's on it. I totally forgot to tell you. So the bonus features. It's a 4K restoration, so I'm assuming it's the same restoration that was used for this Eureka version right here. And it's got 2004 interview with Johnnie To. This has a 2004 interview with Johnnie To. I'm assuming that's the same interview. I don't know for sure. It's got a making of from 2004. Guess what? So does this. Probably the same thing. It's got the trailer on it. It's got a Sean Gilman essay, so that's not in here. And then the main thing that is going to be on the Criterion release that is not on this release are new interviews with the co-screenwriter Yao Nai Hoi, the composer Peter Kam, and film scholars David Borbo and Caroline Gao, who I have heard of them in passing. David Borbo and Caroline Gao, and I read, they have like a blog or a website, I'm not really sure what it is. Someone sent me a link to, they wrote something about Ashes of Time. And I read that. And I'm on the fence about giving my opinion on that, because I don't really see the value in espousing negativity about these things. Because if you like those essays, then you like those essays, and I don't want to tell you not to like those essays. But it didn't really tickle my fancy, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, if you've listened to any of I have another channel with my friend Mike, who does the technical stuff for this channel, and if you listen to any of the podcasts we have over there, or I have a hard time with a lot of like academic writing about film, because I feel like it comes from a perspective of people are trying to read film like a text, and a movie is not a book. You can't read it like the creation of a single author, where every single detail is meant to be perfect, and like everything can be read as some Freudian, like if you are a creative person, if you're an artist, if you come from that perspective of criticism is post hoc, right? So you're looking at something that already exists, and you're analyzing it as though it sprang fully created from the mind of, it sounds like, what was Athena, who came out of Zeus's, who was the head birth in like ancient Greek mythology, right? That's not how the creative process works, right? And a lot of times there's this really great, actually, just speaking of Godard, there's this really great New Yorker piece on Godard from like 20 years ago, and he's talking about Spielberg, and he's talking about the thing that irritates him about Spielberg's films is that Godard, as an audience member, feels as though Spielberg goes into his movie making with answers rather than questions. And to Godard, the heart of the creative and artistic experience is to ask questions and try to discover things rather than to have answers and try to give them to the audience. I find Kubrick to kind of be like that too. He's not asking questions, he's hitting you over the head with his opinion. But I mean, it's, it takes all kinds. And so if people like stuff, I try not to be negative about it, because there's no, taste is taste and nothing is objective, and if you like something, you should like it, and more power to you. So my name is Will, and I am talking about the Criterion Collection release of Throwdown. I thank you so much for watching the channel, and we will see you next time.